before you begin this practice, a little thing about Yin I just want to tell you is I'll leave the length of the time spent in these postures up to you. So have your whatever you're watching this video on handy close by so that you can pause it and go at your own pace. If you feel like you need to take longer amounts of time in each posture, please do. I do not, because I don't need to. It hurts me to spend too much time in a Yin pose. I don't think that Yin is bad. I just think that it's not good for everybody. So also I think that really, really long holds in these postures aren't good for anyone. And I'll say that, I'll kind of reiterate that throughout the video as I do. But I just want you to really, really check in with your body. And hopefully you're learning with everything, with these postures, with these online classes that we're doing. Hopefully you're getting a really great self-understanding of your practice and building autonomy in your practice and how this is your practice. And you're ultimately in charge of it. And hopefully this is giving you some really good control over your practice, some power. And I hope that you're really responding to that with confidence and confidence in your ability to make good decisions based on your self-awareness and based on your body awareness. So longer times, fine. Shorter times, fine. Maybe you don't need to be in these postures as long as I'm in them. So you're in control of this class. You're in control of this video. You can stop it and start it, restart it back up. You can fast forward, okay? So, but make sure before anything else, you're practicing safety and really self-awareness of your body, and be safe. All right, thanks, yogis. Have fun. For this Yin practice, you'll want a belt and to be at the wall. We're going to take a wall practice today. You might want a couple blocks, blankets, depends on your comfort and what you like. So we are going to start at the wall with the legs up the wall. So I'm going to go ahead and scooch over. I'm going to have the belt handy close by because we are going to use that in just a moment. So I'm not really going to put anything under my hips. You're welcome to if you'd like. I'll also keep a blanket close by just in case I decide I want that. Okay, and then we'll come into this legs up the wall. So the easiest way to get into this position is to sit up next to the wall with your hip and then slide your legs up as you roll down to seated. And then just kind of use your elbows to scoot yourself closer. I like to have my hips on the wall. I'm just going to rest here for a moment with my feet up the wall before I move into the first stretch. And so this practice will work on hips and hamstrings to open those two areas that are typically tight in a lot of people. But first I'm just going to gather my breath in here and situate on the ground because this is our foundation today, is this reclining position, the back, and for the most part we will get to our feet soon, but this is going to be where we're starting and then going to stay for a few moments. So really situate here and ground in. Feel your chest open, your shoulder blades flatten on the floor. And then move your breath in from your belly up through your nose. And feel the expansion of your ribs. Feel the expansion of your belly. And you might feel your hips drop down a little bit more. And then you might feel your thigh bones sink in a little softer. So maybe it's not so much of a push up with your legs. You're using your legs to hold them up, but you feel a little bit more of relaxation if the thigh is dropping down into the hips. And then your hips sinking down into the floor. So the first posture we'll move into is a reclining wide angle. So we're going to take the legs out wide and slide them down. So here you might want a couple blocks to go underneath the outside of your legs if this is pulling too intensely on your inner thighs. And so you might need to even just start just kind of a half separate a little bit, and don't go to your max, right? So if that's just really super intense to start, just only go like halfway. And then notice if you're pitching your low back up. I'm not encouraging you, and I don't want you to flatten your back out. That's not at all what we want to do. But you also don't want to to try to correct this intensity or kind of like mask the intensity or help it out, compensate by pushing down into your sit bones. So you want your sit bones to go towards the wall just with a relaxed energetic force. So we're not like pushing into the wall with the sit bones and flattening out the spine, but your sit bones are facing the wall rather than facing down to the floor. And then as you're here, you might feel your legs, fall on their own. You're not pushing them down. And then resist the urge to push down with your hands. If anything, you can support the outer thighs with your hands, or again, those 2 blocks might be handy. Relax your feet and your toes. And then again, your shoulder blades. So try not to notice, or do notice if your shoulders are gripping, and so try not to squeeze your shoulders up. And then really direct that breath from your belly into your ribs. Big opening, big spacious breath here. And notice if you feel any pain at any point in time, you're going to fix this. You don't want that terrible pain in your inner groin. It should be just easy opening in the inner thighs. So at any point, if you need to lift your feet up or put something underneath your legs for more support, so the weight of your legs aren't pulling on the inner hip. And this is stretching out your adductors, the inner thigh muscles, and a little bit of those hamstrings. So the inside hamstring muscle, you might feel something there. You can rest your hands on your belly to feel your breath moving. And feel your back relax with each breath. So your low back is lengthening, not shortening. Every once in a while, I feel a little grip in my low back, so I have to remember to check in and soften my low back and lengthen it out rather than squeeze, because it's trying to protect, it's trying to reduce that sensation. And then the minute I feel that back release, then my heel just dropped a little bit. And it's not because I'm pushing down or because I want my foot to go lower. It's just because that's where my body's moving. Okay, then we're going to move up into a reclining cow face pose. So you can start to lift your legs up, use your hands, and then use those inner thighs to squeeze. Now you are going to push down into the back, into the floor, and lift your legs up. And then let your legs rest against the wall once they come back up. Let your, let your thighs settle down into your hips. And then for this cow face pose, we're going to cross the right leg over. And so you might just let your right heel come down and take a half cow face pose. If that's too intense, to take both knees down. But then if you're ready, you can take both heels to the floor, to the wall, and about knee height. And then just stay here for a few moments. My sit bones are still pretty close to the wall. The right one's kind of pulling off now. So I have these ropes handy. I can try to pull that right sit bone up, and it's not really going to work so much as it would on the floor. So I'm not really going to try to push my right hip to the wall, rather walk my feet away from each other and get those knees to stack up. So this doesn't need to be a super huge intense pose right now, but I am pressing into the wall with my feet so I can feel that resistance is providing that hip rotation, the thigh rotation, and then the nice outer hip stretch. And then again, here you are going to kind of push down into your sacrum and engage the abdominals to pull in. So I'm still not flattening out my low back on the floor. There's still my natural curve, but I'm also not popping the hips down to the floor and low back up. So there's some pushing back down to the floor at the back of my pelvis, the back of the sacrum. And so if you want to play with different foot placement, if you like to have your heels a little lower here, feel free to have your heels a little lower. And that might fire up a different area. And then in that case, if you're dropping your heels down, you're taking your knees towards the wall. And that I feel a little bit more in my outer right hip. So take the next few moments to play with this. You can pause the video and then see which one you like and just stay here for a few minutes. I'm not going to be here very long. It's just a nice, easy 1 minute, maybe 2 minute pose. But you're welcome to stay longer if you'd like. And again, check in with your breath. Breathing from your belly into your ribs. Soften your shoulder blades flat on the floor. Soften your face and jaw. And notice if you're gripping your shoulders or your jaw. And then after just a few more moments here, when you're ready, you can start to walk your feet up the wall. So prepare yourself. If your eyelids were closed down, you can open your eyes. You can start to move your toes around and then slide those feet up. Heel toe your feet up on the wall. I'm going to reverse everything. So take the left leg back up straight. And then take the right leg up and uncross. And then just let my legs rest here for just a moment. Stretch out my toes. If you feel like you need to get a little closer to the wall, if you got pushed away from the wall in the transitions, you can situate yourself. And then the right leg is under, left leg on top. And then right here, I'm just going to start to lower the left heel down. And you can stay here with the right leg up. Or you can start to slide the right heel down. And again, you maybe just take the feet right now, knee height. And so this is just going to, right here for me, fire up a nice little place on my outer left hip. I'm pushing into the wall with my outer feet. Pressing the back of my sacrum down here. Make sure that my ribs are still pretty centered in the center of the knees, so my chest and knees are lined up. And pressing into the outer edges of the feet, pull your outer ankle bones off the wall so that you're not collapsing the right ankle. The left one shouldn't be really a huge issue there, but sometimes the ankle gets too, you don't want your foot to collapse. And then again here, notice if you're pushing your hips down, pull the upper back down and let the low back soften a nice little arch, right? It's a nice little curvature. But the back heart area, that's pushing down. You can rest your arms out beside you, above head if you prefer. Maybe that's your ideal arm placement, but wherever you're comfortable. And then again, after a few moments, if you want to let your heels slide down towards the floor a little bit more, you're going to press the right knee into the wall and then push into your right thigh with your left shin. So maybe even you use your hand to help the heels come down a little lower. And in this situation, I am pushing down into my back pelvis, down to that middle upper heart region, and getting a nice stretch down the inner left thigh a little bit more. So it's the inner and the outer hip. And again here, just for a few moments, not too long, just about a minute. So I'm counting about 10 breaths. Continuously check into the grip grippy areas. So it could be toes, it could be hands, jaw, or shoulders. And soften those areas. Okay, and then we're going to start to, again, ready, prepare yourself to come out. So if you want to open your eyelids, wiggle your toes, and just start to slide your feet back up. Again, we're going in reverse. The right leg's going to come up first, and then I'm going to uncross my left leg and stretch my legs up the wall. And just take a moment there. And let those thighs relax down. Just feel even relaxation in your thigh bones. If you even want to use your hands to massage a little bit, you can. The next stretch will be a number 4 stretch. So I'm going to keep my left leg straight and cross my right ankle over my left thigh. And then just simply right here, you might even with your right hand gently, I don't want to say press, but just kind of keep your right knee away from your right shoulder. You're welcome to also then slide that left heel down a little bit. And at this point, I'm just bracing my right thigh with my right hand so it doesn't push down. So I'm not actively pressing my thigh away, because when I do that, then my left foot turns out and my left knee turns out. So I'm actually keeping my left knee and toes in the same line, my right knee and toes in the same line, and then I'm pressing down into my hand with my right thigh. Here, the back of your pelvis is on the floor. You've got a nice little low back bend happening. So you're going to let the low back lift, but not the hips. So you're not lifting up with your butt. Your sit, or not the sit bones. Actually, it's the back of the pelvis is pressing down, almost like your tailbone can tilt down to the floor. I mean, you're welcome to take this foot down as low as you can without letting your right hip lift. So keep your right hip on the floor. I can feel plenty here. You don't have to go deeper to feel more. This is why I love using the wall, because you don't have to use so much to push into it. The wall is the leverage for you. It's not moving. Hopefully yours isn't moving. Maybe look into that if it is. But yeah, you want to keep this nice passivity, but still some action, right? So we're still engaged. It's just a little bit more relaxing when you've got the wall to do the heavy work. Okay, so if you're here and you want to be here a little longer, go ahead and pause the video and stay for a few more moments. I'm going to go ahead and slide my left leg back up the wall, and then take my right foot back up the wall. Just a moment to let the thighs neutralize. And then when you're ready for side 2, crossing left ankle over right thigh this time. Again, I'm just going to have my left hand, elbows on the floor, left palm is on the thigh, so that when I do start to bend my right knee, there's some resistance there. And I'm keeping the left hip down on the floor. I'm keeping my heart open, so there's a little bit of a lift in the low back, but the back of my heart, again, the upper back region is in grounding into the floor. It's not shoving or rounding or pushing, it's just connecting. So you can feel a big open upper back area, broad from shoulder to shoulder, pressing down into your mat. So from shoulder to shoulder, there's a big line across the heart, pressing into your mat. And again, your knee and your toes are in the same line. Right knee, right toes, left knee, left toes. Smooth your breath out here and see if you're using your upper back too much. Careful with that. You don't want to cramp in your mid upper back, so soften a little bit in that mid upper back. Big breath to lengthen your spine. Soft exhale to soften the upper back, the place where you're exhaling from. Okay. And then again, if you want to stay here a little longer, pause the video. I'm going to slide my right leg up, slide my left leg up. And again, let your thighs resettle before you move on to the next posture. Here's where you might want your belt. So I'm going to bend my left knee, put my left foot on the wall. I'm actually going to come away from the wall a little bit. Okay, so I can have my left foot comfortably on the wall. So I just want to take the left hamstrings out of the equation. I'm just trying to get the right hamstrings here. So you can use a belt for your foot. And then the left foot is just comfortable on the wall. And then here you can start to stretch your left or your right leg back towards your face. But your shoulder blades are not lifting up. You're not lifting your shoulders. You can definitely use your hands behind your calf and your hands up on your foot, but not if you're lifting up to get there. So the back of your head on the floor. Upper back again, that upper shoulder to shoulder line is long and comfortable on the floor. Again, we're just focusing on this right leg. You can take hand to big toe if that reaches. And just breathe here. And you're welcome to find dynamic movement. So the belt is very handy for this because then on your exhale, you could bend your elbow and pull. And then on your inhale, you could release and lessen the intensity. And then as you exhale, you can use your left hand on your left thigh just to make sure that you're not using your head or your shoulders or your neck. Inhale, release. Exhale. Also, your left hand pushing on your knee will help to reduce the urge of your accessory breathing muscles to overwork. These muscles up in your chest and neck are only supposed to be assistance muscles of assistance, accessory, not primary breathing muscles, which is down in your diaphragm, thoracic region. So you should be actually, or down in your abdominal region, you should be using this area and then this area to help. So this area helps. So if you push into your left thigh, it prevents you from going with your upper chest. And then you'll hear it. If your upper chest muscles are working more, you hear this short, pulling, loud breath. Whereas if you're using your belly more, it's a smooth, softer, quieter breath. Okay, and if that dynamic movement was helping and then you want to settle into the static movement for just a few more moments. Okay, release your left or release your right foot. And then bend your right knee and take your right foot to the wall. You can even stretch out your right leg a little bit and your left leg just to release that pull on the low back. So this was a hip flexion. This could have been pulling on your low back. If your legs are out at an angle, there's more extension in your hips now and it won't be as intense. Second side, right foot to the wall now, and then your left leg is going to come up. And again, you can use your belt here. If you want to take hands behind the calf muscles, that's fine. But again, try not to let your shoulders lift. Your shoulder blades are flat on the floor. Check in with your breath here. If you want that dynamic movement, right hand brace down on your right thigh, and then your left hand slide it down the belt a little bit so that your left foot can start back a little farther, maybe even knees in line with each other. And then on your exhale, you're going to pull the left elbow down towards the floor to pull your left foot towards your face. And then on your inhale, you're going to slide it away. Inhale. And then exhale. And again, you're pushing into that right thigh. It's almost impossible then for those upper chest muscles to overwork on the breath when you inhale. When you do let your inhale, your left foot falls away, don't let your left shoulder go with it. The left shoulder stays tacked on the floor. Try to keep your low back long and your back of your pelvis planted down on the floor. And if those dynamic movements are helping out, and then you find that you want to stay, then you can stay. After a few moments, you can use the belt or fingers to big toe. Keep pressing into your right thigh though to keep the foundation. So the right foot is pushing on the wall and your upper back is spread across the mat. Spread out that surface area. Feel your belly pumping your breath up to your ribs. And on the exhale, pulling it and pressing it out. The belly works for both rounds, for both parts of the breath, inhale and exhale. The belly is the prime mover. And then slowly release your left foot. Take your left foot back to the wall. You can stretch your right leg out and release your hands and your wrists. All right, and then we're going to take a half happy baby at the wall. So I'm going to bend my left knee. I'm actually going to scooch in back closer to the wall here. I'm just going to bend my left knee so the heel's on the wall, and then I'm going to reach up for my right foot and pull the right knee down. So you can actually stretch your left leg up the wall if you'd like here, and let your left hip lift. But I'm going to keep my left foot on the wall and kind of walk it over so that my knee and my hip have lifted and my foot hasn't stayed over. So my left foot walked over because my hip, when it was on the floor, it's over here. When it lifts, it comes over here. So I'm going to walk the foot over. And then the sole of the right foot is up to the ceiling, and I'm pulling the right thigh down towards the floor and pressing into the wall with my left foot to push my left hip up to the ceiling. And you can use your left hand again on your left thigh to keep that chest open and to keep your shoulder tacked back on the floor. Smooth breath in and out of your nose. And again, just like that number 4 shape, you're welcome to stay here a little longer. I'm going to slide up out of this and take my right leg back up to the wall. And then situate the second side. So my right heel on the wall, I'm going to grab my left foot, and then I am going to let my right hip lift up as soon as I get there. Left foot, I'm going to take the right hip up and walk the right foot over, and then the left thigh down towards the floor. So again, you can push into the wall with your, or push into your foot with your right hand, push into your right thigh with your right hand to tack the right shoulder back to the floor. And then the ball of the right foot, heel of the right foot presses into the wall. Keep the chest open, keep pulling the left thigh down towards the floor. I was cramping up in my left side. I think I was too short, so too close to the wall. So if you feel like you're cramping in your left rib muscles or core muscles, get away from the wall a little bit. I think I was too close. So make sure the knee and the heel are lined up so your left ankle is over your left knee. And the left knee is right over next to the left armpit. The left knee and the left armpit line up. Again, you're welcome to stay here a little bit longer. I'm going to go ahead and slide up out of this. Legs up to the wall. Okay, I'm going to scooch closer to the wall. Bound angle. So I do want my sit bones a little closer to the wall. I'm going to draw my feet down. And here you can use your hands gently on your thighs. So not on your knees, on the thigh bones. My elbows are on the floor. The heels of my hands are up on the thighs. And sit bones pointing to the wall. They don't have to be touching the wall, but they're directing towards the wall. And then the back of my pelvis on the floor. My low back isn't arching or flattening. Flattening is just neutral. And keep pressing, if you'd like, into the wall. You can keep dropping your heels down towards your groin. And then keep moving your thighs towards the wall. And a few rounds of breath here. All right, and then I'll start to take my feet up and out for a squat. So I'm walking my feet out, turning my toes out like goddess squat, and I'm walking my heels down as I can. If you need to move farther away from the wall, please do. Especially, just depends on how long your shin bones are. So this is, proportion issue. If you feel like you're really crunched up into the wall and this is hurting your inner hips, or anything's digging or pinching, move away from the wall. I like to press my elbows into my thighs and just feel my chest really open here, and I can feel those lats and the back muscles engaging and drawing and hugging the shoulder blades. Okay, I'm going to start to walk my feet back up. Take my legs up and pull my feet back in toward each other. And then I'm going to come off to the side and roll up to hands and knees. So I'm going to get up into a tabletop position. I'm going to roll back over my feet into a standing pose, wide-ish legs. You're welcome to lean back on the wall here and take a bit of a ragdoll. Knees are softly bent. I'm letting my sit bones rest on the wall so that I have an idea of where I'm lengthening out from. So it's just an energetic, easy little push into the wall, not a forceful push, right? So you're not like scrunching in, you're just hanging and relaxing. I've got just about, 3-4 inches away from the wall with my heels. You can sway side to side, or you can just relax here for a few moments and bend your knees as much as you need. And feel that breath. It may start even moving your torso. Your torso could be so relaxed that your breath is waving your spine up and down.
Notice if your toes are digging. Your toes really don't need to do much here in the way of balance. The wall is helping you. So let your toes relax. If you're not using the wall, then yeah, your toes are going to be probably doing more work, right? Okay, I'm going to start to walk my feet farther apart. So my hands are coming back to the floor. I'm coming off the wall. I'm going to walk my feet a little bit farther apart. At this point, if the wall no longer makes sense, you can come away from the wall. I'm going to keep it. I like it. And I'm just going to hang down here. So I'm in a Prasarita, Padottanasana, wide leg forward fold. Your feet are active. So if you do suffer from plantar fasciitis, this is really going to start to burn in the feet. So be mindful of this. Maybe come out of it, come down to the floor. You can always come back to reclining position on the wall and take this pose again with your legs up the wall, the wide leg pose. Or even in a seated version, so you could sit and forward fold over your wide legs, over the ankle. Push down into the inner big toe mounds of your feet here, because with the sit bones at the wall, it's really easy to let your feet turn out, so really keep a grounding down into the inner part of the foot. You could use blocks under your head here. You could come back under your hips a little bit more with your arms if you'd like. If that's too much, don't do it. All right, I'm going to come back up, inhale, walk away from the wall. I'm going to take my feet back in together. And then I'm going to take this into Malasana garland pose. If you're so close to the wall, you can always inch yourself back closer to the wall and use the wall for balance. So your hips can once again come to the wall, especially if your heels don't quite hit the floor. You can have your feet together or farther apart here. And you can squat down to your ankles and to your heels. I like the wall because then you're not going to fall back here. And then just kind of let yourself hang down here, just like that garland or like that ragdoll in the forward fold again. Let your chin relax. Let your head relax. If you're not using the wall, the hips are still dropping down towards the floor, okay? So you're not lifting your hips up towards the ceiling. Hips are dropping down. Head is dropping down. You can even use your hands here. And kind of get the stretch in that back chain, the back muscles, because that's usually that's part of the reason why hamstrings feel so tight is the back muscles may be super tight too and sticky fascia. All right, when you're ready, you can come out of that and then come forward. We're going to come into a lizard lunge. So I'm going to walk forward and take downward facing dog just for a moment. I'm going to lift my heels, and then I'm just going to kind of stretch out ankles here. Might be a little tight after that. You can lift your foot and stretch it out a little. Release that plantar fascia. All right, so from a forward fold, walk up. Hands are going to come inside your right foot, and then your left leg's going to go back, and you're coming into this lizard lunge. I'm going to keep my left knee on the floor. That's how I like to take this posture. You're welcome to lift your left knee off the floor. right toes for me are pointing forward. If you need to point your right toes out, that's fine, but don't lift up the foot. Keep the right big toe mound on the floor so that the knee is pointing in the same direction as my toes. My knee is nowhere near the same direction of my toes. I don't need to turn my toes out. So I'm going to turn my toes back forward because my knee is pointing straight forward. Squeeze the inner thigh into your right ribs and open your chest. You're welcome to come down to elbows here if you'd like. I mean, all it does for me is make my back round, and I really don't even feel a deeper hip opener. It's just, congratulations, you got to the floor. It doesn't do much for me. In fact, with my hands on the floor and lifting my chest up, this is stretching more along the front of my left hip, which is really what I'm looking for here. The right hip, yes, I'm getting a nice compression in the right joint and a stretch in the back of the right hip and the back of the right hamstrings, maybe even the inner right thigh, but mostly for me, it's the front of the left hip, and that's where I need it. And so I'm going to open my heart here. You could even take your hands on blocks and lift your chest even higher, and it'll produce more of a stretch across the front of your left hip. Make sure your breath is still smooth and steady from your belly in and up. And just about 3 or 4 more breaths here. All right, we're going to pull back into a half split. I'm going to keep my right foot out wide, and then I'm going to wiggle it away from my hips so that I can pull my left hip back over my left knee, and my right leg is out wide. So it's a little bit more of an inner thigh and back hamstring stretch rather than just the back hamstring. And then from here, you can take your hands, lengthen them out, walk them away from your legs, but take your chest with them. So your chest follows your thumbs. Chest doesn't go towards your pubic bone, okay? Chest is open, and press out through your right foot, the inside of your right foot. So pull your chest through, pull your right hip and left hip in, under, and then push through your right foot. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and rebend. I'm going to wiggle that foot back over so I can step up into the forward fold again. Take my hands inside my left foot so the left foot walks over, right leg goes back, and I'm going to start to lower down slowly. So this may be a shock to that right hip. Just be really slow in that transition. The right knee comes down, or you can keep your right knee up. Again, this is up to you. So this pose is going to offer a lot of different options in a lot of different areas of the hip, the front, the back, the inside, the outside. I mean, the entire hip and the hamstrings too, so as the hip flexors. So you go where you need to go to get the stretch that you need. Again, if your left knee is turning, turn the toes. So that the knee, that bony knee, the head of the tibia there, or the patella, the hell is the patella? Yes, patella. That thing is pointing in the second toe direction. So if my knee is turning forward, I really don't need to turn my knee out. And I'm squeezing my thigh in to my ribs. And again, I'm going for the front of that right hip stretch. My hands down lower are going to help put more of a stretch here and actually kind of back in here a little bit. So the inner, I mean, everywhere really. But when I lift my hands up a little higher, it takes it into that front right hip more. When on the other side, I went too high, I felt nothing then in this hip. So I kind of want a little bit of both. I kind of want everything. We want it all, right? So find that midpoint, that sattvic point where you're going to feel not too much work, but just enough work. So it's balanced. It's energized. You're breathing. You're still active. You're not dumping into your joints.
So in these postures, the reason why I only stay for just a few rounds of breath is because I really don't think that long holds in these postures are safe for your body, because then it stretches your ligaments. Then they're not supposed to be stretchy. They're supposed to be tight. So I like the yin concept, but I don't necessarily think it's the best thing for your body to be in a pose for 5 minutes that is stretching now into your ligaments. Everybody is different though. I could be in the forward fold for 5 minutes and it probably would never go into my ligaments because I don't feel it. In this pose, if I'm here for too long, it's going to start to hurt. So this is why I'm saying in the videos, pause the video if you need longer. If you start to feel this achy pain in your hips, it's time to get out of it. Or in any of the postures, it's time to get out of it, because then you're stretching the ligaments, and that is not the way our ligaments are designed to be. They're not supposed to be stretchy. They hold shit together. Why do you want them to be stretchy? So make wise decisions. Rant over. Was that 10 breaths? I'm feeling good here, so I'm going to go ahead and stretch back. I don't think I need any more. That front hip is the one that had that injury, so I'm not going to overstretch it. I do believe that was part of my injury, was overstretching that front hip, the psoas. So done with that. I'm going to move into a half split with the left leg out wider. So the reason why the left leg is out wider is because it's not just targeting the hamstrings. If you want just hamstrings, I guess come to the half split. But I want to go out a little wider so that I can feel the inner adductors and the inner hamstrings a little bit more. Middle hamstrings for me are super open. The middle back of my hamstrings. The outer and the inner hamstrings are the ones that are tighter. So I really want to focus on the inner hamstrings here. And again, I'm going to press my hands out, but my chest is falling, so I'm not collapsing. Activate that left foot, press away with your left foot, squeeze your 2 hips in and under, and then press back with your tailbone and press your chest away from your tailbone. That oppositional press will create some resistance to stretch along the inner left thigh and the back of the left hamstrings, the inner left hamstrings. All right, I'm going to go ahead and walk my left foot back in. I'm starting to feel some pain in that left sit bone where I have a little inflammation, so I'm not going to push it. You can stay longer if you need. I'm going to go ahead and step forward, and when you're ready, forward fold, exhale, Uttanasana. Inhale, reach all the way up, Urdhva Hastasana, stretch it out. Squeeze those muscles that were just being stretched, but not too much. Just a nice, gentle little squeeze. And exhale, standing pose. All right, so I'm going to have you come into seated. I'm going to come into seated. Whatever, we're all going to come into seated. Yay. And I'm going to take soles of the feet together, bound angle, Baddha Konasana. Actually, I'm going to take a wider bound angle. This just feels better for my body. So I'm going to take my feet out a little further because I'm just going to be here for a few rounds of breath, and I don't want to have to pull myself in. I'd really like to just be able to enjoy this. So I'm just going to interlace my fingers and cup the tips of my toes. My feet are cold, so that helps me. And then I'm actually going to take my elbows out so that I'm not pulling down into too much of a rounding in the spine. And then I'm going to stretch my chest towards my big toes. So I want you to find the shape that feels really good to you. If you want your heels in closer, if you have super open hips, or it may not even be the shape, the openness of your hips. It could be the shape of the neck of the femur. So if the neck of the femur bone is angled in more, this pose, it doesn't matter how much yoga you do, your knees are only going to go down so far because the bone hits bone. But if your knees flop down to the floor and you feel like that's super, super cozy, then lay out over that and enjoy it for a few moments. Go to the place that feels good to you. So I'm just going to try to relax my back now. And then breathe down towards my feet. Let my head soften down towards my feet. Not breathe down towards my feet. So hoping that this is going to soften my low back, which it is, and relax those outer hips. So I'm feeling this great stretch around the outer low back, the sacrum, the SI joints.
And just a couple more breaths here. I'm starting to feel a little achiness in the back, so that's enough for me. I don't need to feel pain. I've learned enough from my practice that I know when your body starts to feel pain and when it's good and when it's bad. You'll eventually figure it out. Hopefully it doesn't take injuries for you to figure it out like it did for me. Inhale, start to come back up to seated. And then knees together. Hug in and lift your chest. And then as you exhale, I'm just going to take an easy twist, right hand back. I've got my left arm hooking around or hugging over the front of my shins, left fingertips hooking behind my right calf. Easy little twist here. And then on my inhale, release, open chest, and then exhale off to the left. Right hand hooks behind the left calf muscles. I've got my right arm framing my knees. I'm pushing into my shin or my arm with my shins and opening the left chest back, open left shoulder back. All right, and then set yourself up in a comfortable shavasana. If you want blocks or blankets, something to set yourself up in an easy, comfortable resting position. If you want to take Supta Baddha Konasana, that's fine. If you're sick of all the hip opening, don't do any more hip openings. Not feeling it. So I'm just going to go ahead and, there we go. Okay, so I've got the 2 blocks under the backs of my thighs. That helps release my low back, especially if that was where you were feeling all the forward folds, which is common. You'll feel it in your low back often. If you want something underneath your head or up your upper heart to create more of a back bend, to release the back even more, that's fine. But set yourself up, get yourself cozy, and take the next few moments to rest and relax and just feel your body's space and your joints. And notice if you feel any achy, overstretched areas. And then if that's the case, then you need to really squeeze back into those areas. You could take a twist side to side if that feels good. Hug your knees into your chest. And you would go off to one side with your knees and stay for a couple rounds of breath. And then you could come up and go off to the other side. And the second side twist for a couple breaths. Right, and then take your rest. As you're ready, you'll end your practice. I'll leave you here to breathe your way into peace and relaxation. As always, when you do end your practice, take a bow to yourself with gratitude, love, and contentment. Thanks, yogis.